Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest, esteemed Kingshuk Saha, presently the Secretary of ISHRAE Jadavpur University Students Chapter. It is absolutely an honor and privilege to be standing before you as a moderator for this special day. Without further consuming your time, let me introduce you all to our esteemed guest for the night. First, we have ANUVAB DEY, who would be pursuing his higher studies in Purdue University. Next, it would be followed by Amrita Das, ECD in France. Next, we would be having HUSAIN Tamim Bamboowala, who would be pursuing his higher studies from Arizona State of University. And before handing over my mic to Amrita, just a code of conduct, like keeping yourself muted. Ladies and gentlemen, from your end, to all of you who are present right now, to turn on your cameras to make it more engaging. And I would also request the panelists to turn on their cameras so that we can have a very engaging conversation with all of you. Next, I would hand over my mic to Amrita, my co-moderator for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Kingshuk Saha. I'm Amrita Dasgupta, UG3 Mechanical Engineering. Let's start with the session. First, I would like to ask ANUVAB, which test did you take to consider for admission in abroad universities, and how can we prepare for those tests in third and second years?
So as for the tests, the most important one I think is TOEFL or IELTS. You need to look at your university websites to make sure which test is. It's a language proficiency test, and preparation for it is very easy. You need 2 weeks for that. Other than that, there's this test for, especially for US universities, called GRE. We had to take it, especially for me. I needed it for my admission into Purdue. But the thing is, nowadays, most of the universities don't require GRE. Even Purdue has waived off GRE for 2020 this fall. So I'd say preparing for TOEFL is enough.
Okay. And how can we prepare for it in the second and third year? Like, do we have to start in the second, third year, or can we start in the fourth year?
Okay, so the thing about universities abroad is that they judge you very holistically. They don't base admissions on just one exam. TOEFL is just to make sure that you have the basic skills in English to be able to make the most out of the course that you'll be taking there. So all you need is 2 to 3 weeks for preparing. There's this website called RegMat. I'll type it down in the chat. There's a 2-week program there for TOEFL. That is more than enough for preparation.
Thank you. So, do extracurricular activities like research projects, internship, do they play a very important part in the selection, and does it vary from college to college? I would like to ask this to ARITRA.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you repeat once again?
Anubhav just said that it is a very holistic approach. So I would like to ask that extracurricular activities like research projects, internship, how much of a weightage do they have, and does it vary from college to college?
Oh, all right. So most of the weightage is on your CGPA and your grades, and yeah. So basically, you can join the clubs and all. That will improve your soft skills, and you'll make a very good connections, and that will also improve your CV and all. But for the research activities and all, there's a part called SOP, or statement of purpose. So basically, it will be a bit of difficult. It will be difficult for you if you don't have any prior research experience, and SOP plays a very crucial role in the admission procedure. So that's how the whole thing is.
Okay, thank you. How did you choose the country you wanted to apply in and you wanted to study further in?
All right, so I have applied to 3 different countries, and basically I have selected on the basis of course and institution. So I had attended a conference, and from there I came to know about some researchers who is working on this field of interest of mine, So that's how I selected this particular institute.
Would you like to add? Thank you. We have Professor Achinta Mukhopadhyay sir in the audience. Would you like to say a word, sir?
No, please go ahead. I mean, you are doing it very nicely. In fact, it's a very good day today. I mean, we had this news about the placement and this success story. So it's a very, I mean, it shows we are in a very good state. And in fact, the thing is that I didn't know about. I knew about some of the people who are going, but I didn't know about others. For example, I didn't know about DEBARSHI going or about ARITRA going. So that way, I mean, it's better than even what I knew. So please carry on.
Thank you, sir. What is the availability of scholarships for international students? I would like to ask this to HUSAIN Da.
Okay, so the availability of scholarships, you mean for master student, right?
Yes.
Okay, so scholarships are mostly of two types I would categorize. One is merit based and the other is need based. And also the scholarships depend on what country you are aiming to take the course. For example, I had applied to two countries, that is USA and Canada. So scholarships in the US for masters are like slim to none. It is really very hard to find a scholarship in the US if you want to take masters. So it is a needle in the haystack if anyone finds that. And in Canada, there are certain courses, like there are two types of masters. Like in any country you go, there are broadly two types of masters. One is professional master's degree and the other is thesis based masters. So if one opts for the thesis based masters, scholarships are available, even though it is harder to get a master's with scholarship, but the chances of getting one is more in a thesis based master's program. So I personally have gotten into a thesis based master's program, so that is the reason why I have got a scholarship covering my tuition fees. So on the other hand, if someone aims to do a professional master's program, I think there are hardly any scholarships that cover the tuition fees. For example, I know that for a student going to TU Delft, the intake is about 150 students, but the scholarships available are only 1 or 2 for the 120 students or 140 students that are taken into the course. So the funding scenario is pretty bad after the COVID.
That is a very interesting insight. And how did you choose the country in which you are?
Okay, so I had a multi-dimensional approach in selecting the country. I had scaled in many factors. First of all, the cost. That is the most important thing, and that is the only thing that students overlook. That is cost. The second thing I looked is it after I graduate, how easy would it be for me to get a job? So I wanted to select aerospace as my future career path. So for that, if I were to go to the US, it would have been very difficult for me to get a job because they have ITAR regulations that forbid any employers, private or government, to hire Indians or, for that matter of fact, any other foreign nationals apart from the Americans. So for becoming an American citizen, it would have taken me 10 years. So on the other hand, if I went to Canada, I took a degree there, a master's there, and then within 9 months to 12 months of getting a master's, I would have gotten naturalized there. So I would have become a Canadian there. So that would help me in getting a job in the sector that I want, that is the aerospace sector. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was like what courses are available. Like the courses that I wanted was like either aerospace engineering or mechanical with specialization in aerodynamics. So the course was obviously not available in many countries, or there were language barriers. Like for example, in Germany, all of the courses that are taught are in German, and in half of Canada, like in provinces where where French is spoken, I couldn't even apply there because even there is a language barrier. So there were three barriers that I told. One is money, the other is job prospects after graduation, and the third I told was language. So those were the three that I. Okay, so Menak has a question.
Yes, Maina. Please please a question.
Okay. So those were the three things that I considered. So are there any questions on that?
I don't think so. I would like to hand the podium over to Kingshuk again. Okay, Ritesh, please ask your question.
Basically,
I have a... Wait, Ritesh, you can just wait. You can actually keep your queries to yourself at the end of this. Ritesh, you can keep your doubts to yourself for the time being. We will give you an opportunity to talk with the panelists, and then you can raise your hands.
Okay.
So next was like, my first question would be to, you can write down your questions in the comment section also, no problem. My first question would be to ARITRA, what was the exact application procedure that you had applied for?
So the application procedure can be divided into two parts. First is the admission procedure and then the scholarship. So for this admission one, it is a straightforward application. They would ask you for your CV, your TOEFL score, one SOP reference recommendation letters and all. So more or less every French institute offers some sort of institutional scholarships in terms of a tuition fee waiver. They don't generally give some sort of stipend or living allowance. There are rarely one or two institutes I have seen that gives you living allowance, but the amount of scholarship is also very less. So the two procedure, admission and institutional scholarships, they go side by side, and all you need to do is that you need to drop a mail to the admission office that you want a scholarship, and they will tell you what would be the procedure. So either they would be asking you for some extra documents apart from those you have submitted for your application, or they would ask you for a simple interview. So in my case, I was able to bypass that interview, and they asked me they asked for some sort of documents, or they asked some questions, and I just mailed them back with those answers. And they gave some sort of a percentage of tuition fee. Percent of tuition fee was waived off, and I got the admission over there. And next one is the scholarship procedure, main scholarship, and the French government basically offers a lot of scholarship to Indian students via the Campus France organization. So Campus France is basically a French government organization involved in promoting the French higher education systems. So they have a lot of scholarships available. What I can do is that I can give you the link of the scholarships.
That would be very helpful if you can paste the link in the comment section.
Yeah. This one's the link, and everything is included over here. You can see the eligibility and all. Just go through that link, and every scholarship has its own eligibility and criteria. So you need to be aware while applying for these scholarships. And that was the procedure. And there was one thing is to mention. There is a special scholarship called the Sharpak scholarship. That's only offered to Indian students. I got that scholarship, and the most of the tuition fees was waived off, and you will get a handsome living allowance, and the visa fees and all those parts, that things also were waived off. So yeah, that's the whole procedure.
Okay, Dada. Okay, Dada. Thank you. I guess we will be able to get a proper information by the link that you have given over there. So we can access that link, and the rest of the information will be over there. Thank you, Dada. The same question to Anuvab also, like what was the exact procedure of application while you were actually aiming for Purdue University?
So I've gotten admission into the thesis-based master's program, and the process for that as well as the PhD applications is pretty similar. You apply to a professor first.
Sorry to interrupt you. If you could explain like the thesis-based scholarship also while you while you say. Okay.
So there are two kinds of master's programs. One is a professional or non-thesis-based master's, where you don't really work on a research project. You're working mostly on the courses, like a lot of people here at Jadavpur University do, although we have a major project at the final semester. But there you only work on your courses. But in a thesis-based project, the coursework takes the backstage, and you're mainly working on the research part. So this is the basic difference. But the main benefit is that with a thesis-based master's, there's a slightly higher chance that you might end up with a scholarship. Although it's still, for a master's, it's pretty difficult. So the process is that I was applying for a PhD. So firstly, you mail professors. The most important thing is scouting the professors that you'd like to work with. You need to identify your research interests, and on the basis of that, you need to look at the university websites for the different labs and choose which professor you would like to work with. And the best way to get a scholarship is to cold mail them. The research interests might align, and you might get a position. So for me, I had to mail the professors. I mailed them with my CV, my GRE TOEFL scores, and other stuff what I'd worked on, and I had also talked about what I found interesting in the work they were doing in their lab. And based on that email, they replied and said that they were interested in hiring me for a position, and there was an interview. And after that, I think the application procedure was not that important. I had written an SOP detailing my research interests and how the courses would help me, and also, again, you need to upload your CV, give the details about your GPA, what courses you've taken, and all that. But I think for these thesis-based master's courses, the most important thing is the research work that you've done, and whether or not you're thorough with it, because they get into the details in the interview. So yeah, that's the procedure. Should I go into more detail, or is that enough?
Up to you, Dada. Means if you want to elaborate more, it's fine.
The gist of it is you need to portray your research interests. Make sure that research interests align, because if you're going for a PhD, you'll be working on the same topic for 5 years. It's very important that you don't choose a lab based on your chances of getting into the lab. Instead, you should choose based on your actual interest. So choosing is very important. Secondly, preparing for the interview, go through their lab website, look at the topics they're working on, read some of their papers, and also they're not going to be very technical about what you studied in your mechanical engineering course, like the placements in a university. They're going to look at what you worked on and whether you're well accustomed with the skills you've gained while working on those projects. And lastly, you need to work on your SOP, but I think that's secondary for these kinds of applications.
Means basically your portion of the application started with the cold mailing portion, which included like thorough discussion, means the SOP that you had submitted, where you had a focus on your research interest, and later on what you said that you were actually pursuing your MTech in the thesis part. So that's how it went, I guess.
Okay, I missed out on a very important point. I'm sorry about that. Letter of recommendation is extremely important. I think that's one of the crucial parts. You need to start approaching professors early so that they have enough time to write a good recommendation letter. You need to highlight to professors what you need mentioned, and it's best you ask professors who you've worked with personally to write a recommendation letter. Or if you've done very well in a class or have interacted very well with that, then you can ask them too. But it's best to ask someone who you've worked with on a recent.
Okay, Dada. Thank you, Dada. We also have Debarshida with us right now. Debarshida, can you please turn on your mic and your camera so that...
Yeah, 1 second.
Hello. Debarshida, would it be possible for you to turn on your video right now?
Just hold on for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Yes, Dada. Okay. So Debarshida has been selected into the master's program of UMass. Next, he was also offered a PhD program at the University of Massachusetts, and also the master's program at University of Miami, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, Dada. So we would like to know, like, how did you apply for all those 3 universities? Like, what was the application procedure?
Okay,
how did you proceed?
So actually, for my case, when I was doing my final year summer internship in the Indian National Center for Ocean Sciences, so and that time I had to read a lot of papers. So actually, my interest was on to study the ocean physics and ocean biogeochemistry. So I never wanted to stay in mechanical engineering. So at that time, I had to read a lot of papers. So I knew actually which professors are actually working on the things which I like. So from those papers, actually I shortlisted the professors first, and then I looked into the universities, because since I was changing streams, I was pretty sure that the very good universities I won't be able to get into. So I left those out, and then so it was actually for me the first I shortlisted the professors, and then I shortlisted the universities.
Okay, so that's like, and what was the application procedure for that?
Application procedure is same for all. Means first you need to write a statement of purpose, you need recommendation letters, you need your CGPA, you need the GRE scores are not actually very important for any application procedures. However, I think for getting scholarships or fellowships for PhD program, GRE scores are seen, but they're not very important. And apart from that, you need a good research background, and the same thing which are required for all other universities are also required for this university.
And the other, like you mentioned, like whether are you pursuing your MTech or it's like an MS program or it's like a direct PhD program?
It's an entirely PhD program. It's an integrated PhD program. It's for 5 years.
It's for 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, Dada. Okay. Thank you, Dada. Next, my question would be to HUSAIN Da, like regarding his application of procedure, like when he applied to the University of Arizona. So what was like the basic steps that he followed? Was it with the like same like LOR, then go with the SOP, like cold mailing? Like what was it actually?
Okay, so I had applied to like 6 universities. So I didn't apply to University of Arizona. I applied to Arizona State University. So the two are different.
Okay,
so,
sorry.
Like the application process for masters in the US and for the masters in Canada is different. So I would first like to go into like Canada, where I'm actually going. So I divided into two parts. One is pre-application and the other is while applying. So the pre-application has like Anubhav has already mentioned the parts. One is contacting professors. So first of all, I had to decide the course. So the course I wanted, and the course in which I had the maximum probability of getting a scholarship, that required me to contact a professor and to like get his consent whether he has some openings or a position or not. So for that I had to email the professors. Like I first of all shortlisted certain colleges. I opened the departmental websites, and then based on the professors the domain of their work, I mailed them. So like, do not get disheartened if you do not get replies from them, because professors are very busy there everywhere, so they do not have time to respond. So only if there is an opening they'll reply back. So for my case, I had mailed approximately 80 professors, and out of that I had got 10 replies, out of which 5 were positive and 5 were negative. So yes, you can get a rough estimate on the ratio of mails that you would be giving and the replies you'll be getting back. So the second thing is, like, if the professor gives a green signal, then I applied to those universities. Before applying, I kept my TOEFL ready. So in Canada, I didn't require GRE as such for any other universities. The thing only I required was TOEFL. So while applying, I required LOR, SOP, my academic CV. That is the thing. And apart from that, they'll require the transcripts. It is nothing to worry. Like, transcripts is just the scanned copy of first and the last page of each physical transcript that you get. You can just compile that as a PDF and then submit it to them. For us, it works. So that is the transcript part. And then the statement of purpose is like, I personally, statement of purpose is divided into 3 parts. First is some personal things about you that motivated you to take the course. The second part is your research interests and what inspires you to go to that college and country. And the third part is what professor would you like to work in. So since I had cold mailed certain professors and some of them had given me positive responses, so I had basically modified or catered my SOPs to suit them. And I had mentioned that I'd like to work under those professors under these fields that they work on. So that is the statement of purpose part. So after submitting that, after the application process is over, then the professors usually interview. And for the course that I applied, they did 100% interview. If they're not interviewing you, then the chances of getting selected are slim. So in the interview, like Anubhav said, they won't go into technical details, but basically the projects that you have done, the internships you have done, they will like ask you in detail about that whatever you have done, was it like, had you done it diligently, or was it just on paper that you did this project or that project. So that can be a deal breaker, because certain students, like, for the purpose of like filling up their CVs, they exaggerate certain parts that they have not done, or they misrepresent their contribution in a certain project. So that is the part where students should be honest. So like, I had a CV in which I had written, even though like I think professors, they would appreciate a CV, like even though a smaller one, but the things that you have done and you have honestly filled, those CVs would help you better in an interview. Like an exaggerated CV would definitely help you get into an interview, but if the professor finds out that this is an exaggerated CV, I do not think so that you'd go into the next step. So I'd ask you guys to be honest with that part. So and the LOR part is like, each and every university requires you to that 2 or 3 of the professors from or 2 or 3 persons give you LOR. So I would like to go discuss 2 things about that. That LOR need not be from a professor of yours. It might be a professor from other university, or it might be even from your manager at your internship. For example, I had done an internship at Airbus, so even my manager at Airbus could give me an internship, and it would still hold valid there at the university. But the key point here is to take an LOR from a person that knows you well, because a person whom you have interacted personally might be a professor in class or your manager at internship, can write a few things, like can write a detailed thing about you, rather than just approaching a person or a professor who does not know you that well. So that is that part. And at an average, 2 to 3 LORs are required. But I'd suggest to at least approach 4 to 5 professors, because I personally had applied to 6 to 7 universities, and other applied in that same ballpark, 6 at max 10 universities. So not all the professors would be available at the time that you want the LORs to be submitted. So some professors might, or some other some manager or some other professors at other universities might deny you giving the LOR before the deadline, because like they might have other things to do. So for that, I'd ask you guys to keep at least 4 to 5 people who know you well and are able to give you good recommendations. So that is the part of LOR. So apart from that, I had applied to Masters of Applied Sciences, that is a thesis-based program. So the application procedure for that and PhD is pretty much the same. And coming to the second part, I had also applied to the US. Applying to the US is way easier, because first thing is they know that they won't be giving out scholarships, so the application procedure is straightforward. They just need your CV, they need a few LORs, and they need your statement of purpose, and they'll ask you something about a background, but you won't be required to contact a professor beforehand, unlike Canada, because there's no distinction in masters, like in the US, like thesis based or course based, like there's a degree called MS. So in that, if you're able to like, you can do thesis work or you can take a credit, but at the end of the day you'll be getting an MS. So on the other hand, in Canada there are 2 separate degrees. One is M Engineering, that is Masters of Engineering, it is a professional degree, and there's a separate degree called MASc, that is Masters of Applied Science, that is a thesis based program. So application for both is separate in Canada, but on the other hand, in the US, application procedure, in the process they'll ask you that, are you interested in submitting a thesis? So according to that, after you get selected, then you need to contact a professor if you're applying to the US universities. So and in case you get in case you get allotted a professor for thesis, that means that you will get some stipend, and to some extent your degree would be funded, but then to you. So these are the application processes in the 2 universities, 2 countries.
Bhaiya, can you please elaborate on the point, what are the criteria or the parameters that would be satisfying or would be fulfilling to apply for this university? Means like the SGPA, if I'm talking about the linear SGPA, or minimum projects that one should do at this present moment.
Okay, what university are you asking for?
For your university.
Okay, so I personally had gotten an offer for, I'm talking about Canada, because getting into, I talk about that, I would talk about the other stuff, that I had gotten an offer of professional masters that was unpaid at University of Toronto. That was a master's in aerospace. Then I had gotten an offer of PhD from the same college, and I had gotten an offer of thesis-based masters at McMaster University. So there is no definite answer to your question that what are the definite criteria, because nowhere it is mentioned on the websites. It is that there is a competition between students who are applying. So if you're the best out of the lot, you'd get selected definitely, because the course that I had applied to was as funded. If I got selected, that means explicitly it means that I have gotten scholarship. So for that, see, if I would say that getting a GPA of 9 or doing 2 internships and doing this would satisfy, I would do injustice to you all, because that is not true. It depends upon professor to professor. It depends upon university to university, the cutoff part. And even there is a bare minimum TOEFL score that is required in order to apply to the university. But beyond that, there is nothing as such that there should be minimum criteria. For my profile, if you want to know, that my weighted GPA was in the ballpark of 9.5. I had done 3 research internships, 1 industrial internships, and apart from that, I had gotten a PPO at some company, and I also was in like extracurricular activities, like that is sports and all round. So I think certain universities or certain professors look into that part as well, like not studies purely, but also what you could do, like how all-rounded a person you are. So those factors, I think, see, the maximum you could do is benefit. There's no hard limit on how much you can do. So I think so if you want admission, you should persevere and you should achieve as much as you can. So that is because there are students from IITs that are applying. So for those students, getting a GPA of 8.5 would be sufficient. But I am from a slightly lower ranked university. So for me, a GPA of a higher GPA would keep me at par with that student who has a lower GPA. Similarly, a student from a private college would require far more GPA, far more internships to keep him at par with me. So it is a purely subjective question.
Okay, Dada, thank you. It is really very insightful. My next question would be to Debarshi. Like, Dada, can you please tell me, like, if I have to, if I'm having that mentality that I want to pursue my higher studies from the abroad, so from which year should I start off myself? From the second year or like from the third year if I'm like wishing to start off? What would be the ideal time?
The ideal time would be start from second year itself. But at my time actually I did not decide that I will go for higher studies. So I means that early. So I started it with my first internship, my first project, my genuine research internship, which I did was actually by the end of second year. So that was beginning of third year. So yeah, so you can start it. Actually, starting early is better. I plan to start at the beginning of second year, but I did not get the chance to do that. So yeah, so it would be better if you do it from second year, because at my third year I had cramped, means a lot of projects were I was undertaking a lot of projects altogether, which was which actually hampered my coursework a lot. So it is better to start early.
Okay, Dada. Anubhav, are you there right now?
Hello?
Yeah. So, Dada, what would be your take on that? Like, starting from the second year or from the third year?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part. Could you repeat?
Yes, Dada. I mean, I'm asking, like, if I'm having a mentality that I want to pursue my higher studies from abroad, like, from which year should I be starting off my preparation? Means like approaching the professors for projects and everything. Should I be doing it from the second year or from the third year? Like, what's your take on that? And how did you do it? How did you approach it from in your time?
Before entering Jadavpur, I was set. I had thought about pursuing my higher studies from long time back. So I think it's very important that you start early, because it's not important that you do too many research internships. It's important that you work on one research project, 1 or 2 research projects, and you work on them very well so that you get some quality end product out of it. A publication would be great. So I think I started with Professor Achinta Mukhopadhyay himself, and that was in second year. I had worked with him on a project, and I think second year is a good time to start, because you start to establish your fundamentals a bit, and most you learn to practice in these research internships. You don't need to have a certain knowledge on a subject to do well. I think it's more important to learn in the process. And as for there are exams and all as well, right? But those you can prepare for them 2 or 3 months before application cycle starts. So that is covered. Other than that, it's most important that you identify what you want to do, because it shows that I'm going for a master's, but I'm actually going to be targeting a PhD conversion. So PhD is a huge commitment. So it's important to make sure that you know what a PhD entails and that you're willing to sacrifice those years of your life to just be in academia. So that's what's important. Get into research early, understand what it takes, because it's reading a lot of papers, working for long hours, and it can be very difficult, but it can also be very rewarding. So that's what's most important, being able to understand what is required. Other than that, as for the preparation, as I said, the exams don't take much, and the research projects, you're not just working on the research projects for applying to these universities. You're working on them for your overall development. You learn a lot of things while working on these research projects. So, yeah. And also the internship, the third year internship you do is very important, extremely important, I'd say. Try to go for a research internship if possible. That helps a lot.
Means it's always better like if you can start off at the early stage, and that would be beneficial.
Absolutely, because the longer you work on a research project, the better chance you have of having a publication. Unfortunately, although I've worked very long on a few research projects, I didn't have a publication at the time of application. But although that isn't a deterrent, but having a publication is a proof that you can start a research project and end it and publish something good from it. So that is very important.
It kind of shows your commitment, and that is what I guess the foreign professors might be looking for.
Absolutely, because they're looking at so many applicants, right? So they look at 2 applicants, and one of them has a published paper, and he has to initially judge based on the things that the student provides. So a published paper is definitely very handy in that situation.
Thank you. My next question would be to ARITRA. Like, while deciding in which foreign university to take admission, which criteria has the maximum weightage and course, and which criteria has the maximum weightage? That is my question. And like, what is the importance of GRE, IELTS, and TOEFL regarding means in the universe? Like, you are doing your future studies in the ECTN France. So what are the scores that one needs to produce? So that is what I want to know.
I didn't get the question. Like you're asking for the criteria they are looking for, like the admission criteria.
One is admission criteria, and next is the importance of GRE, TOEFL, and IELTS score, if it is required, if any.
So I didn't take the GRE first of all, because you need to check with your university of which you're going to apply, whether they're asking for the GRE or not. The universities that I have applied, they didn't ask for GRE, so I didn't take the test. And coming back to the question, like I had, so I'm going for the masters in advanced robotics program. So it is also the course is offered by ECN. Basically, the college school's name is ECN, not ECTN. First of all, it stands for École Centrale des Nantes, and the course is also funded by Erasmus Mundus program. But I didn't apply for that program. So the college itself doesn't tell you that what is the weightage on these things. Like you need to have a good CGPA, CBA recommendation letters. But there's a list that Erasmus Mundus has given out, and they have said that your academic performance is getting more judged than the other criteria, and they have given out a percentage that it will be given a 45% weightage, and the rest of the things they lie around 10% to 5%. So from that I understood that academic performance is also important. And there's also another thing in that is judged in the French universities, that is the relevance of your degree. Like what you are gonna pursue for your masters must be relevant to what you have done in your bachelor's. For instance, though the program is though the program is on robotics, it is more or less has a mechanical weightage. Though we know that robotics is an interdisciplinary field, but the course is basically on mechanical robotics. So they have seen that whether I have taken some fundamental robotics courses or not in my bachelor's degrees, that I don't have any formal robotics courses, but I have taken up courses on control theories, then some drawing courses and dynamics courses. So from that they judge that I have this relevance and I can pursue the masters in their university. And by the time of application, I had 2 publications on robotics. So that kind of helped me to get into this school.
Okay, it's really insightful. And now I would open this questionnaire session to the audience. Like if they have anything, they can turn on their mic and they can ask to the respective panelists regarding what question they have. I remember Ritesh was having one question to HUSAIN Da, so you can right now unmute yourself and you can ask that question to HUSAIN Da or anyone else.
Yes, I'd like to ask that HUSAIN Da. Am I audible?
Yes.
Is it possible to, is it necessary to learn German and continue study there for higher studies?
See, if you want to go to Germany, there are 2 things I would like to say. First is, in the course of mechanical engineering, since Germany is a leading manufacturer, has a leading mechanical engineering sector, almost all the courses are taught in German. But in case you get certain courses that are being taught in English, you could take that definitely. But if you want to get hired, if you want to get some work experience, you want to do some internship, for that you would require at least B2 level of proficiency in German. So even if your university is offering you a course in German language in English language, you could do it if you want to. If you have full funding from home or any other sources, and you want to come back to India, and then you want to continue studies or do whatever you want. But if your end goal is to work in Germany, in that case, you would definitely require at least B2 level of proficiency in the German language.
Okay, Dada. Thank you.
Anyone else who has any queries, you can raise up your hand or you can unmute yourself and you can answer to the respective panelist.
Actually, I would love to ask that how did you sort the country or UK or US or Germany or any other country? How did you sort this out?
So you want to ask it? You want me to answer it, or?
Can you just mention which to whom you want to
Okay,
answer?
HUSAIN, you answer, please.
Okay, so there is no definite answer to me. Like you are asking that, how did I select where I want to apply? See, I had kept certain parameters. Like I want to study, but my end goal is not to go into academia. So I wanted to work there where I go, in the field that I want, that is aerospace or certain related fields. So for that, I found out what countries are at top. What countries have their own aerospace industries, their own manufacturing units, their own research facilities. So if you go for any other field in like automobile also, so for that corresponding, you would look like what countries have the largest automobile industries, and what countries are the leading manufacturers of industries. If you find that, and so there is a better chance of you getting hired there. So like any country would like, if say a country would offer you a very great degree in masters, but it won't that country won't have any chances of you getting employed. Hard for after whatever you do. So if there is no employability in that country, that is a huge red flag. So based on that, I'd say 5 to 6 countries would pop up. Germany, France, the US, Canada, Australia, Netherlands. You could say the most developed countries. So these, if you like, even filter out other things, that is there a language barrier, like in better, but in Germany I know there's a language barrier. See, if you are starting from second year, you can erase that language barrier. Or French, because in certain parts of Canada you are required to learn French, and then only you will be get admission in that province or university. So there is a language barrier. So if you're starting in the second year, so you can overcome that. So language barrier is also a second part in selecting. So that will even narrow down. I went through the list of top colleges, so like it does not matter, but then you could like definitely filter out, like you could know that what countries are offering great courses in like that. If you do, you can narrow down your list of what countries to apply to 2 or at max 3. I would say applying to more than 3 countries would be a waste of your resources, because applying to one college at an average, and countries in different continents have different requirements. For example, like European countries have IELTS requirements, American countries have requirements of TOEFL, and certain Asian universities. We as Indian students, if we are going to certain Asian countries like Singapore, so Singapore National University, and Nanyang NTU, Nanyang Technical Universities for mechanical engineering, but they require a valid GATE score. So not many students know that, but for even applying that, you will need a valid GATE score that is in top 1000 or something. If you have that, only then you're eligible to apply. So it is very important for you guys right now to shortlist and decide what countries you want to go. So if you do that, you can channel your resources into certain places that can help you better. Like it will increase your chances. So I hope I have answered your question in how to select the country.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any more doubts?
Dada, I had one question. That what is the role of CGPA in terms of applying to the abroad universities and getting chance there?
Kosto, can you be more specific to which senior you're asking this question to?
Tamim, if you can answer this question. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, but to which senior you're asking this question to? I'm asking that.
Hussain, if you can answer with this question.
Okay. See, the more the merrier. But the thing is, there is no definite thing of GPA, because GPA, if you would go, it will not be a fair thing to judge by, because if I am in a private university, I know students who can get a perfect 10. If I am here, like I have got something, if I am at a very, like if I am, certain other universities grant way less GPAs, so that does not mean the students there are less meritorious. So I would say anything about 9.2 is a decent GPA, because GPA in culmination with other points, see there is a holistic valuation. They judge many things, not only the GPA. So GPA is just a checklist that if you fulfill, you are eligible the professor will consider you. See, it is in my days, in my batch, I know like a lot of students have got 9 above, but for you guys, not a lot of students have gotten that good grades. Like the average 9 above, like for our batch, out of 147 students, I think 30 or more students have got an average of 9 in overall 8 semesters. So I know that for you all, it is becoming tougher. But the thing is, GPA, because see, a student from IIT Kharagpur who has done mechanical has a GPA of 8, and you, a student of Jadavpur University mechanical, have a GPA of 9. So I think both of you would be at par, because GPA matters, but also the university that is granting you the GPA matters. So it is just you see, every year it changes, because you do not know who else is in competition with you. So might be students this year have scored even lesser than what you have, or might be like if I myself apply this the next year, I myself would not be able to get, because students are getting more than what I am getting. So it is just like Web G, just because it does not matter like what you score, it matters what others score, because it is a relative system, right? So in admissions also it is a relative thing.
Okay, Dada. Thank you, Dada.
I guess with that, any more question left?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Is it necessary to give to qualify GRE exam for masters in abroad?
Chayan, can you be more specific, like to which senior you're asking to?
I mean, Hussein, if you can answer.
I will say something. Shan, please don't mind. Hussein দাকে দি তোরা কখন থেকে বলিয়ে যাচ্ছিস কিন্তু হুসেন দারও কিন্তু গলা ব্যথা করতে পারে একটুখানি হুসেন দা
I guess even Anubhav knows better than me. Anubhav knows better. I think Anubhav can answer this. Anubhav, Sayan is asking that is GRE required? Like
GRE is not exactly required, I think, because most of the universities, if you look at their websites, they have waived GRE for the 2023 season. But if, for example, if you're shifting your domain, if you're trying for computer science or something like that, or maybe if the program is very competitive, then if you take the GRE and you get a very good score, especially in the quant section, that could really boost your profile. For example, if you have a lower GPA, say around, I won't specify which GPA is low or high, but if you think you don't have the GPA that might be needed to get into a good program, you might take the GRE, get a really good score, because that shows that you will be able to do well in that program. So, yeah, in that case, taking the GRE might make sense, but most of the universities have waived off GRE, and in some universities, submitting the GRE scores is not even an option. But while cold mailing the professors, you can mention your GRE score. That might boost your profile.
Okay, thank you.
CM sir, would you like to say something?
Yeah, before you wind up, I would just like to give a few comments, but if others have questions, they can carry on. I mean, before we wind up, I would just like to say a few things.
Do we have any more question for the panelist? Then you can like you wanted to say something, so you can continue with that.
Okay, a few things. Sorry. First of all, congratulations to all those who are going, and you also covered the points nicely. I would just like to clarify on a few things. First is regarding the question on GPA. Uh, it's actually, first I'd like to say a thing on letters of recommendation. I don't know how people feel these days. I mean, but when we were students or when we had just started teaching at that point of time, we had a feeling that if the letter of recommendation goes from some very senior person, say like the HOD or a very senior professor or someone like that, that would carry more weight, and so that would be absolutely essential. But the fact is not that. I mean, it wasn't like that at that point of time. But probably it's not like that now. I mean, I can tell you one thing. So it was. I mean, that was around the time when I had just joined. So it was around sometime in the mid 90s. So one of my earliest batch of students. So he was applying for graduate studies in Canada actually. So what he did, he broke the tradition of approaching senior people, and he took recommendations from me and another person who was just barely a couple of years senior to me. And at that point of time, I mean, both of us, we had maybe less than 5 years of, each of us had less than 5 years of teaching experience. But the fact was that I mean, we knew that that particular student extremely well. I mean, he had spent most of his time with us. He did a lot of work with us and things like that. So we could write very specific and emphatic comments on him, and he got selected. I mean, so that kind of started breaking the myth that you would need to get the letter of recommendation from some extremely senior person or somebody like that. I mean, so that time, so if now some of you come to me and say, now I am a senior person, for example, so you come to me and I think, yes, I taught him in class. He seemed to me quite good, and another one say, another person say like Shorav sir or Shuman here sir, who is much younger, they who know you much better, write a much more emphatic statement about you. Not only emphatic, it has to be based, I mean, corroborated with facts, or I mean, I can just say anybody that he's extremely good in analytics, or he's extremely good in this and that, but it carries little sense unless I can say why I think so. So when you are going for recommendations, it's always better you go to people who know you well, who know you really well. I mean, so I mean, at times I find it kind of strange that students at the end of fifth or sixth semester, they sometimes come to me and say, I tell them that you haven't done any course with me, so you just go to someone whom you are close with, and they don't seem to have any name. I mean, that I find a bit strange. I mean, not. I mean, with the kind of environment that we have in our department, so it's very easy to build connections with teachers. I mean, maybe not all of them, because I mean, there would be, you may not like all of them, or everybody may not like you, or something like that. But you don't have anyone who knows you well. That is something not very desirable. I mean, I'm telling particularly for those who are in second year or maybe even third year, because it's still early time for them, and so they should take care of this. So that is one thing that I would like to say. Second thing is regarding the GPAs. Yes, GPA is important, but let me tell you one thing. I mean, I don't know so much about Canadian universities, but in most US universities, getting admission for our students is not that tough. I mean, getting the financial support, that is much tougher. Unless, of course, you are talking of some real top of the list university. So and if you are talking of financial support in US system, it mostly comes from individual professors. I mean, their own projects and things like that, and different professors, they have different takes on it. So I know personally one professor from he was from University of Connecticut, and he had a great fondness for JU mechanical students, because and it's all started because he taught in a course where there was one JU graduate, and he found him absolutely outstanding, and so he after that he advised many JU students. So in one case, I know very specifically, one of the students who had applied for him, at that point of time, he was in the top 10 in the department. So it seemed it would be very easy for him to get, but after a few weeks, he came back and said that, I mean, he just sent a mail that I find that you have a C in one of your maths courses, and also a C in. I am not sure whether you would be able to cope up with that we do, or the coursework that you. It was the end of it, and at that late stage, he actually took another person from JU only, who was not even GRE was essential. He just at the last moment he applied, and he just saw his grades, liked it, and he said, "Oh, okay, you just have a TOEFL, and I will take you." And so it can vary from person to person, unless some universities, they have some very well defined. Their professors cannot do much, and also about contacting universities, they have different systems. For example, in Georgia Tech, it's expressly stated, and professors maintain it very meticulously, that you should not get into any kind of communication unless you have been accepted for admission. But in other places, they would start doing it much earlier, and in fact, in many cases it helps, because when the decisions are taken at the departmental level or something like that, if somebody puts in his or her weight behind a particular candidate, it can help. So there is no general rule. And finally, I mean, this requirement of GPA and between the and the rank of institute and thing like that. I mean, the mapping is not so linear. I mean, what actually happens is that since they are getting grades, I mean, applications from all over the world, and they really don't know about all of them. So they seem to be more comfortable with places they know. So that way, because there are, I mean, the IITs are more network. I mean, these IIT students, and there are more IIT students in the US system, and many of the professors themselves are products of IIT system. Or now of course there are many from other non-IIT institutes also. So that way, IIT gets a gets some weightage, but it all depends on how you I mean how that particular institute knows JU and things like that. I mean, if it has a history of a few good graduates from JU, I mean, it may even be that they will reach out to JU first before taking and before considering applications from other places seriously. So that also puts another an additional responsibility. I mean, just like a good reputation can help, a bad reputation can ruin the thing, and the bad reputation rarely for JU students, it rarely comes from academic performances, but it comes from the from commitment or lack. If you commit to somebody, say you commit to somebody in say a mid-ranked university, and then at the very late you get an offer from some much higher ranked university, and you say that it's good for my career, and you just forget the commitment and accept the offer there. That is not taken at all kindly. That is not at all taken kindly. I mean, it definitely affects the prospects of your juniors, but it may also affect you, because this academic world is very strangely networked. I mean, you never know when you will run into the person whom you committed, but you didn't keep your word. So you better not do it. I mean, if you are in some doubt that, let's say you have got an offer from University of Illinois at Chicago, and you are you have applied to say Georgia Tech or Tech, or say or it may be even Berkeley or somewhere. You are expecting that you could get you are waiting for the result to come from there, or maybe University of Cambridge, UK, or something like that. Then it's perfectly all right to say that I cannot commit at this stage. I have a few more. I'm waiting for a few more options, but I mean that's taken much more easily. I mean, rather than you say yes, of course I'll be going there 100%, and then you change your mind, because they also need people to, especially in US, the funding comes from projects where, I mean, like here also, the funding, when it comes from projects, you have tight deadlines, and the person who is providing the fund, they won't accept the excuse that I didn't find a student to work, so I cannot deliver the goods. So that puts them in a very bad spot, and so they would try to avoid it. I mean, however good the institute may be. I mean, we did have some such bad experiences. We had many good experiences because of our performance of our alumni, but we had some bad experiences. So that is important. So you take care of that. I mean, you don't need to feel depressed that, I mean, because you are not from IIT, so you need higher GPA. I mean, yes, of course, higher GPA would always help, but it's not exactly linear like that. I mean, and as for the thing, I mean, in many places, people would actually prefer a 9+ GPA from Jadavpur than and maybe an 8.8+ GPA from IIT. It has happened. I mean, I know it from personal experience. So these are the things that but one of the things that was very important, I feel, I don't remember now who said it, that don't try to don't try to see a project. I mean, no matter whether you do it here with one of us or elsewhere, you don't try to see just as an additional line in your see project, be thorough with the project. Whether you have a tangible outcome from it, like a publication, probably who said DEBARSHI or ARITRA, somebody said that ANUVAB said that he worked long enough on a project but didn't have a publication. I mean, it might happen. If it happens, if you get a publication, it looks good, but then be sure that you would be quizzed on it even more, because there is always a chance that people would feel that you have just put your finger onto it. So if you do 2 or 3 projects, I mean, if you do one project, that's perfectly okay. If you do that really well, there's no, I don't think there is need to get involved in 5 projects and do very little on any one of them. So that's it. I mean, for example, if you are working, if you want to go for a project on robotics, it's not necessary that you have to do a project on robotics only, because there are certain common things common for all projects. So if you have good performance in courses which are relevant to robotics, and you have done a good project where you have shown good output in some other area, that should also be sufficient, because it requires certain things like you have to read a lot of literature, you have to stick to a problem, and these things, it doesn't matter whether it's on robotics or whether it's on combustion. I mean, these are common traits, so people would appreciate that. Okay, so that's all I had to say.
Thank you, ACM sir. That was really insightful. Like highlighting the points. University, I shouldn't be rejecting that. Means rather be very transparent and expressing like what are my views and what are my plans are. But if I like give them a commitment that I would be going to that university, but rather than I don't opt for that, and in the later stage, if I get a call from a higher university, that would actually hamper my academia in the long run. So I guess that's really very helpful. Like to highlight.
Yeah, it can hamper you, but I mean there is a high chance it would hamper you, but it would definitely put your university. I mean, it's the same way as it happens with placements also. So you commit to an industry, I mean, and don't join there, and if that thing keeps on repeating, then that company stops coming. I mean, same thing happens with the universities. I mean, I won't get into specific details, but that has happened in recent times. I mean, I have personal experience of that.
Okay, sir. So I guess no more questions are there for the panelists even. So with that being said, I would like to close the session, and I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude and appreciation as we draw this insightful session to a close. On behalf of ISHRAE Jadavpur University Students Chapter, I extend my sincere vote of thanks to each and every one of you for your valuable presence and active participation. This session has been a truly enriching and enlightening, thanks to the exceptional expertise and knowledge shared by our esteemed speakers. Their profound insights have left an indelible impact on all of us, igniting a passion for learning and growth. As we part our ways today, let us carry with the knowledge gained and the connections forged and the inspiration kindled during this session. Together we can continue to strive for our progress, innovation, and our collective growth. Once again, thank you to everyone for being a part of this remarkable session. May we meet again soon. Until then, let us keep the flame of curiosity burning bright. Thank you, everyone.